Hello and welcome to my first ever YouTube video here on Star Wars Talks. Today we're going to be discussing different ways Emperor Palpatine could have survived the events at the end of Return of the Jedi. In the Rise of Skywalker we're never given a clear answer to how he survived, however the Resistance does mention cloning and Sith magic. I have a couple of possible theories to how Palpatine could have returned, one which I personally believe is the real way Palpatine returned for the Rise of Skywalker. Now let's get into the first theory. The first theory to how Palpatine survived is cloning. Palpatine was already very familiar with cloning, as he was the secret mastermind behind the creation of the Republic's clone army. There is no doubt in my mind Palpatine at least attempted to clone himself at one point. However, the key word in that sentence is attempted. Cloning Force sensitives was very tricky. Most of the time they'd either not be Force sensitive, only have a small amount of the real person's power, or not be mentally stable. However, if there was anyone in the galaxy who would have been able to clone a Force sensitive, it would have been Palpatine. During the Empire's rule, he was the most powerful being in the entire galaxy. He had an insane amount of resources at his fingertips. With all of his resources, it is possible he could have created a Force sensitive clone of himself. There are two ways this theory could explain Palpatine's return in the Rise of Skywalker. One is that Palpatine we saw in Return of the Jedi was a clone. Palpatine was very intelligent and incredibly powerful in the Force. He understood the possibility of Vader being turned back to the light by Luke, so he had placed his clone on the second Death Star instead of himself. This way, he would have still sort of died on the Death Star and still be alive for the Rise of Skywalker. However, personally I don't believe this to be the case. As Luke says in Return of the Jedi, his overconfidence was his weakness. He believed he had complete control over Vader and that Luke wouldn't be able to turn him back to the light. He believed he wouldn't be under any threat, so he wouldn't feel the need to swap himself with a clone. The other way this theory could be possible ties into the next theory. Another way Palpatine could have survived Return of the Jedi was through essence transfer. Essence transfer was the ability to transfer your consciousness into another body. In Legends, Palpatine famously used the ability in the Dark Empire series, where he used essence transfer to clone bodies of himself as he fell down the reactor shaft. This is exactly how I believe it would have happened if essence transfer is how he survived in canon. This ties into the cloning theory. Palpatine could have used essence transfer as he fell down the reactor shaft into a clone body he could have created. In Dark Empire, because Palpatine was so powerful in the Force, he would destroy his clone bodies quickly. Due to this, he had to have lots of clone bodies to keep jumping into. So, if essence transfer is how Palpatine survived, he would have had to have multiple clone bodies. We already know he had the facilities for this, as we saw the clone bodies of Snoke he was creating on Exegol. So, it's not difficult to believe he was also creating clone bodies of himself that he was jumping into. However, there is one thing that almost certainly discounts this theory. This is the look of Palpatine in the Rise of Skywalker. He was even more disfigured than usual. If he was using clone bodies, why would he be in such a horrible looking body? He would have used essence transfer to jump into a much better clone, and due to this, I don't believe this is the correct theory either. Now, to the final theory, and the one I personally believe to be true. This theory is that it wasn't truly Palpatine who returned. It was Palpatine's body, and partially Palpatine, however it was really a Sith entity. What I believe is somehow Palpatine's dead body was recovered from the wreckage of the second Death Star, either by his Royal Red Guards or by the Sith loyalists on Exegol. Whichever way, his body was recovered and he ended up on Exegol. There, through some ancient Sith rituals and magic by the Sith loyalists, his body was resurrected. However, when he returned, I don't believe it was just Palpatine. I think it was also all the Sith before him. Palpatine may have had the dominant presence, as in my opinion he was the most powerful Sith to ever live, but there was also the essence of all the Sith. This explains the line in the movie where Palpatine says that he is all the Sith, as he literally was all the Sith at that point, and also the line where he says, "I've died before," as in Return of the Jedi, he really did die. It also explains why he was so insanely powerful in the Rise of Skywalker, being able to ragdoll Rey and Ben with no effort, and also almost destroy the entire Rebel fleet, just with his Force lightning. It also explains why it took the power of all the Jedi to overpower and kill the Sith entity that was Palpatine. And there we go. That's how I believe Palpatine was still alive in the Rise of Skywalker. Thank you all for watching my first ever YouTube video. Click on the I button in the top right to vote on which theory you think is the most likely to be the real way Palpatine survived Return of the Jedi and Return in the Rise of Skywalker. Please like, subscribe and click on the notification button to know when I next upload. Also leave a comment on how you believe Palpatine returned for episode 9. Thanks for watching and goodbye.